hard to make a life, to be able to pay my rent and create a life that like I haven't paused to go, wow, I actually have a little bit of power now. What am I going to do with that? And are the things I'm doing with that in line with my ethics and who I am in the world? And I think a lot of very powerful people have no time to pause. Mm-hmm. They don't create those spaces, and I think some of the most unethical things that happen in the world is because of that cacophony, because there aren't those pauses where people really have to reckon with themselves, not in a like, you're doing something totally corrupt way, but just in a like, is my life energy being used in a way that's useful for the world and in line with my own values?
Mm-hmm.
There's this, Parker, there's I think that the way you talk about the soul as a piece of intelligence in us, and a compass, which is distinct from the intelligence of our minds or even of our emotions.
Right.
And there's a line of Mary Oliver's poetry. This is the first, wildest, and wisest thing I know, that the soul exists and that it is built entirely out of attentiveness. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that we have to seize space for.
And if I could say, because I know the word soul is hard for some people, I want to say a quick word about how it came to me, because it was one of the rare fruits of that experience in deep darkness called clinical depression. So what happened to me in clinical depression, to the extent that I could be aware of myself, which is very hard when you're in that space, was that all of the faculties I had depended on all my life were useless. I could not think my way out of this. My intellect was useless. My ego, which is pretty strong, as are many of the egos in this room, and I mean that in the best possible way, was shattered. You lose your sense of self in depression, so that didn't work. My emotions were dead. Depression is not feeling sad. Depression is being unable to feel anything, so the emotions weren't there. And my will was so minuscule as to hardly be noticeable. It involved things like getting up at 10 in the morning instead of 10:30 and keeping that in a journal as if it were a great accomplishment, which it was. I mean, part of what I learned was to value small things in myself. So there were moments in that depression when way back in the thickets of my life, I could feel a little stirring, like that wild thing, that wild animal that Mary Oliver refers to in the poem. And I came to think of the soul as a wild animal, that little spark, that little stirring that made me think, I can make it one more day. I won't kill myself today.